Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a direct, no nonsense approach to coaching and personal development that's sure to provide our audience with actionable insight and a fresh perspective on achieving success in both work and life. So let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Business Bros. Today's guest is a non-nonsense coach who's here to help you dominate your game, whether it's in the workspace or in the workplace or life. So get ready for some high impact coaching and insight. During our conversation, we'll dive into his direct, no fluff approach to personal and professional development. So if you're tired of sugar-coated advice and want actionable insight, then this episode's for you. So stay tuned as we explore how to stop feeling like you're wasting your talent and opportunities and instead start making real progress towards your goals with the guidance of today's guest, Mr. Dre Baldwin. Hey, thank you very much for being on the program today. Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here, Hernan. Thank you for having me on.
All right, man, look, no fluff. Let's just cut to the BS and get this thing out the way. Everybody who's on the show is promoting something. There's a reason why they're on the show. They're marketing their product or service. They want to get their message out. What is that for you, my friend?
Number one thing for us, our focus is on Work on Your Game University. That's the place where I do all my coaching, only place I work with anyone directly. So that's our place, is the university.
And who's your target audience for that? I mean, there's so many people who need to work on their game, like plain and simple. Some of them know they need to, some of them don't know they need to. Who are you going after?
Our target audience, demographically, we're looking at mostly business professionals and entrepreneurs who are at $150,000 and up. Psychographically, we're looking at people who are looking for that no BS, straight to the point, no nonsense, no fluff approach, because that's my style of approach. And our 4-part framework is based on mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability.
Nice, dude. All right. No fluff approach. I kind of gotta break that down for me, man. I mean, we live in a world where if you hurt my feelings, you're going to get canceled, man. But you're coming out here saying, look, I don't need to deal with people like that. I need people to have like a little bit more of a thick skin. Tell me, what do you mean by that no BS approach?
Well, you know what? It wasn't even something that I consciously tried to formulate, Hernan. What actually happened was I went and talked to a bunch of my best clients a couple of years back. And I got this from a business coaching program that I was in. He said, you should do these. Basically, you want to interview people who are your ideal clients. And the best way to find them is talk to people who are already your clients, the ones who have paid you the most, the ones who enjoy your stuff the most, the ones who are most engaged. And I asked them the following question. Being that I'm not the only person in the world who talks about, and you can fill in the blank with whatever your thing is. I'm not the only one talking about mindset or strategy or systems or accountability. I'm not the only option that you have. What is it about my material or my approach that brings you here? Like, why didn't you choose one of the other 30 people out there who have a coaching program? And the common answer that I kept getting over and over again from different people, whether they were athletes, entrepreneurs, male, female, young, old, was, Dre, you get straight to the point. You're no nonsense. You're no fluff. You're honest. You're objective, and you keep it real. Those were the things that I kept hearing over and over and over again. So this is something that I told my audience for years, Hernan, is not your stuff. Whatever the stuff is, that's not the thing that's going to keep people around. They may come and go, but what keeps them around is that they connect with you on a psychographic level, not just a demographic level.
And you can tell that it's working. I mean, most entrepreneurs, or hopefully most entrepreneurs in this space, can recognize what you got to your on your wall right there is a 2 Comma Club award, which means you got into this space, and not only were you doing what you were supposed to be doing, but you were able to excel and get that message out to more and more people. Walk me through becoming an entrepreneur for you. What was that story like? How'd you get started as an entrepreneur?
Man, that could be a very long story, but I'll keep it short. So how I got started was, well, first of all, when I was in college, I clipped off this little billboard posting that said, make some extra money as a college student. And I played college basketball. And at this time, there was no name, image, and likeness deal. So you couldn't make any money if you were a college athlete. So I was a broke college student playing basketball. And it said, make some extra money. So I went and responded to it. Turned out this guy was in network marketing, which I didn't stay in, but I went to a couple of the meetings. And in those meetings, I got just some new perspectives on how business and money work. So that was one thing that I kept in mind while I was still in college. Then I went and played professional basketball overseas for 9 years. And during that period, about halfway through my career, there was a period where I was a free agent and the phone was not ringing. And at this time, I had a little bit of an audience building on YouTube. And I've been writing, I've been blogging for a while, and no money was coming in because I didn't have a contract playing ball. And at this time, it wasn't a normal thing to make money just from posting content on the internet. That actually did not exist at that time. Seems normal now, but it wasn't a thing then. And I just asked myself, how can I combine basketball with the internet? Because I've always been a computer guy, and making money. How can I do all three at the same time? Now, this seems like an obvious question today, because the answer would be, well, just put out a bunch of content and get brand deals and ad revenue. Back then, there were no brand deals and there was no ad revenue. So that's when I started creating my own products. And my first products were $4.99. So it's not like I'm selling these $1 million products. It's $4.99. I already had an audience on YouTube, and I just told them that I had this new product that you can buy, and they started buying it. And when that happened, that's when I officially became an entrepreneur, officially, Hernan, because that's the first time I created my own product and sold it directly. I had sold some stuff on eBay in the past, which I guess is entrepreneurship, but it wasn't really. But this is when I first created my own thing. And when I made my first sale, again, I'm still playing ball at this point, and my phone did eventually ring again because I kept playing until 2015. But when I made that first sale, Hernan, I said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, because I just created what we now know as intellectual property. I took an idea out of my head, turned it into a real thing, put a price tag on it, and exchanged it for money. And when I did that, I said I could do this forever, because my brain will not expire the way my 40-inch vertical is going to go away, but my brain is not going to go away. So that's when I became an entrepreneur.
There's something about making a sale, huh? When you finally do something and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't have to put it. I mean, I put in the work, but now I'm getting paid over and over for the work I've done in the past. It's not like when you're playing basketball and all of a sudden you're only getting paid if you're playing. If you're putting in the work, you're getting paid. I mean, that's still what people will glamorize as a sport, but you're still an employee, right? You're still getting a W-2 at the end of the day, putting in the work and getting paid, exchanging your time for money. But as an entrepreneur, you learn to scale that a little bit. You talked a little bit about going to college. And there are so many people out here that are going to enter this new life. I'm talking specifically about my students, and they don't know for sure if college is that path, right? Like, it was the path for a lot of us growing up. I mean, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in the 80s. So for me, it was definitely go to college and do that thing. But today it's a lot more expensive. People are not really benefiting from having that general 4-year degree. What do you see as you coach more and more people and your background and experience? What's that educational journey look like for people today?
That's a great question, because you're right. And I'm an 80s baby as well. And that's the way we were raised. So our parents, that was an aspiration of theirs to send their kids to college and get the degree, especially if they didn't get theirs. Right. So they wanted their kids to have a better situation. And that seemed like the better situation at the time. Now, for me, my situation was a little bit unique, because my main driver for going to college was I wanted to play ball. I wanted to play pro basketball, but I wasn't LeBron or Kobe. I wasn't good enough to go from high school to the pros. I needed that 4 years to get better. So that was one thing that I wanted. And at the same time, I wanted the social experience of being in college, because again, at this time, I went to college. I started college in the year 2000. We didn't have social media. So back then you knew who you knew in person, and you didn't know anybody else. You couldn't meet people through the internet back then. So the world is a lot different now. So, and also, because of the internet and because of the fact that we have people like yourself and people like myself taking our knowledge, putting it out online so someone else can learn from it, there's a way that you can get a whole education without ever walking onto a college campus these days that you could not do 20 years ago. So it's a whole different, the equation is completely different, on top of the fact, as what you just said, the cost of college is going up, up, up. It's like a bubble, right? And eventually that bubble is going to burst, like the real estate market did 15 years ago. So the biggest thing for kids these days is figuring out what direction do you want to go, and you can sample things without having to make that commitment. Well, your parents might have to make that commitment financially to send you to school. You can get that information by taking some courses online. It'll cost you a lot less than it costs you to enroll in a college. You can take some courses for free. There are even colleges that put courses out for free if you're willing to just put the time in and get the information. And you can meet people in your quote unquote real life rather than needing to go to college to engage with other individuals. So the equation is completely different for somebody who's coming of age in 2023 as opposed to you and I who are coming of age at the turn of the century. So there's a lot of different things that we need to consider. But the biggest thing always, no matter what your age is for everybody, is where do you want to go? When we're clear on where you want to go, then it helps us make decisions about what you want to do.
Let me ask you about some advice you'd give to young people when it comes to entrepreneurship, because like you, one of my first ventures into business was in the MLM space. It was, I mean, I didn't stick around with it, but I did learn what a business in a box looks like, what a system was when it came to starting something where you had a product, where you had a payment structure, where you had a deliverable that you can have, that you can sell. So it was like almost like, okay, maybe it's not this product, but there's something out there that I can do in the business space. Let me venture. Like you said, back then, I turned pages to read books. There was no audio or anything like that back then. So, but today it's vastly different. If you were going to give advice to kids that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs themselves, what advice would you give them today to have the best opportunity for success?
Number one, take yourself to the library, whatever your library happens to be, whether it's Amazon, the actual library, is a bookshelf in your home, Audible, whatever, and read some books on entrepreneurship. If you really want to do well in any space, and I told this to an audience of mine a couple weeks ago, if you were to read 20 books on any subject, I don't care what the subject is, you will know more than 98% of people, even those who do it for a living, because a lot of people do things as a job, but they just clock in and clock out. They show up, they do their job, they leave, they collect the check every 2 weeks, but they are not experts in their space because they do not study their craft. So if you were to just go and get 20 books on any topic, it could be on entrepreneurship, 20 books on entrepreneurship that sound good and look good to you, or they get recommended to you by somebody. Ask 20 people, what's one book on entrepreneurship I should read? Take all 20 answers, go read all 20 books. You will have a pretty solid idea and foundation of what entrepreneurship is about and whether or not you want to dive into it, whether or not you want to try it out, and then you can move from there. So I would tell everybody to start with, even though we just talked about college and why students may not need it, doesn't mean you don't need education. Now, education and college are two different things. And many people, when they finish school, studies have shown that many people, after they finish school, whether it's high school, college, whatever, they never open another book voluntarily for the rest of their lives and read. But people who are high achievers are always learning, and the education that they get outside of school is much more in depth, and it goes for much further than the education that they got inside of school. So I would have everybody start with reading.
That is so true. And it's a lifelong learning thing, right? Anything that you decide to get into, especially if it's something that you're passionate about, something you really like, ain't nobody going to stop you from learning whatever it is that you need to learn. You are going to go out and start looking for those things that are going to make you better in the workspace or make you better in your industry so that you can start making some more money, so that you can be more efficient, so that you can have that time that you're looking for with your friends, family, or whatever it is that your goal was when you got into business in the first place. Let's talk about mistakes, because the ego doesn't like to have any mistakes made. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what industry you get into or how good your plan is, you're gonna make mistakes in this industry. So what would you say to somebody who's thinking about getting into entrepreneurship but is fearful of making mistakes, or also share some of the big mistakes that you see entrepreneurs make over and over again?
Oh, there are plenty of those. But as far as someone who is fearful of making mistakes, and I'll share some of my own, but someone who's fearful of making mistakes, understand that the way that school works and the way that quote unquote real life work are opposites in many ways. In school, the way that you get an A on the test, or you become the valedictorian, or whatever they call it, the top student, you can tell I wasn't that, and I don't even know what it's called. But whatever the top student is, you get that by having all the right answers, right? You get all the answers right, you get an A on the test, you get a high score on your SATs, and you get into good colleges. And the same thing happens in college. But in real life, you don't get credit for having all the right answers. As most of the time, especially as an entrepreneur, you don't have the answers. There are no answers. You are the one creating it as you go along. So in real life, the key is not having all the answers. The key is asking the right questions. And the right questions form what we call insights. And insights are where breakthroughs come from. So insights are how Steve Jobs created Apple. Insights are how we got Zoom calls, how we got StreamYard. Insights are how we have the internet. Insights are why we have social media, because somebody asked the right question that led to a new way of thinking, that led to something new coming about. As an entrepreneur, You are not just plugging and playing. You're not just plugging into a role that already exists and everyone knows exactly what to do. You just do your job, collect the check, and go home. If that's what you want to do, go get yourself a job, be an employee. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you are creating something new or taking something that we already know about and doing it in a different way, which means it's impossible for you to have all the answers. You have to ask the right questions. So that's one of the challenges for many entrepreneurs, that they think they need all the answers before they get started. No, that's how it works if you want to be in school. But when school's over, you got to ask the right questions. That's the key. And getting around other people who are maybe smarter than you and know things that you don't know. They will pose to you questions that you never even thought about. And that will lead to the breakthroughs in your mind that will lead to the outcomes that you want to get to. But you got to be open enough and be willing to be vulnerable enough to be in a position where you say, you know what? Maybe I am kind of ignorant in this space. And ignorant simply means to not know something. It's okay to be ignorant as long as you don't stay ignorant. That's the point in asking the right questions. So when it comes to the entrepreneurial failures, one of the biggest failure that I would say I had was just in starting, again, ignorance. I didn't know that I need to build an email list. I didn't have a list. And when you run a business, the most important thing that you own is that list, because you do not own your social media followers. You don't own your subscribers or your likes or your comments. That can be taken away from you in 1 second. Somebody hacks your account, you get kicked off, you post something that they don't like, you're gone. All your followers go with you, or go with them, not with you, with them. So I found out later on that I need to build a list. My list would probably be 10 times bigger than it is now if I had known about what I know now, had I known it then, because I was creating content in 2005. I didn't start building a list until 2013. And the biggest challenge that I see with many entrepreneurs is, now going back to the 80-20 principle, or starting with the 80-20 principle, is 80% of our results come from 20% of our inputs. And many entrepreneurs spend way too much of our resources focused on the 80% of inputs that only produce 20% of results. These are usually connected to our habits, things that we're just used to doing, things that we've always done, but they're not really producing any results. And if we would just focus on, excuse me, the 20% of inputs that produce most of the outputs, we could work a lot less and make more money, have more impact, more happiness, get more done. But the challenge for most entrepreneurs, just human beings, period, in doing this, is that our habits are tied to those 80% inputs. And this is the reason why many people never do it. So you have to be conscious about that. To change a habit, you got to be thinking about it. And habits are by definition unconscious. So you got to get conscious about things that you're normally unconscious about, and then you change it. But it's very uncomfortable because you're breaking habits, and habits are hard to break.
Yeah, you mentioned also surrounding yourself with the right people. And I mean, I've interviewed a lot of different people. There's people who use booking agents, but you were a little bit unique in the sense that you have your own team that is either providing emails, text messages, booking your stuff, getting yourself squared away. You're surrounding yourself. You're literally practicing what you preach, surrounding yourself with people who are good at their job, so that'll free up the time that you want to do whatever it is that you want to do in your day, whether it's business related or personal related. You've set yourself up to have the time to be able to do those things. When an entrepreneur gets started, oftentimes they're either afraid to invest that money into hiring the right people. Maybe they're not good at managing people. Maybe they don't even know where to start when it comes to bringing a team together, because that ego is kind of setting in and their name's the one on top. They don't want anybody else to make a mistake. As a coach, I feel like when you do something really well, it's because you're also implementing it in your own business, in your own practice, and then people kind of see that. What do you feel that you do as a company, or you do well, that people are attracted to you, that they want to come to you? They see either what you're already doing, or they're listening to the message that you're already talking about. What is it? What is the reason that people come to you specifically?
You mean like as far as clients and customers, or you mean staff?
Clients and customers.
Clients and customers. Well, number one is that I am a reflection of my message. So everything I'm talking about, I'm doing. So I don't talk about anything that I'm not actually doing. I usually do it first, then I talk about it. So from my background as an athlete, and then extracting the mental tools that work in sports, and then giving that to the athletes, and then people who were not athletes finding it. And then as I transitioned from sports to business, my audience transitioned from sports to business. So it kind of happened at the same time that I was doing it. So as I said, I'm a direct reflection of everything that is in my message. I'm not talking about anything that I'm not actually out there doing. So I think people can tell that. And because of the volume of material that I put out there into the world, you can't hide. You're putting out that much stuff. It becomes obvious who you really are the more you talk. So I think people can see right to that, whether that means they're going to come deeper in or they're going to go away. But either way, they're going to be clear.
I think when it comes to an athlete is always constantly working on their body, trying to make themselves, even if they're not trying to be like an Olympic athlete or nothing, they're
Mhm.
still clearing their mind. They're still going out there, making themselves breathe heavy, getting their heart rate up. How much of that parallels what you're going to do in business? How important is it, in other words, for an entrepreneur to have a physical routine like that, to take care of their physical body? And what results do you usually see that it parallels in the business world?
That's a great question, and it's something that I probably wouldn't be the best person to ask on that because I am an athlete. So I'm always going to be an athlete. So I didn't ever have to tell myself consciously, hey, you got to make sure you go to the gym and take care of your body, because I was doing that already. But I do have a lot of clients who have that issue. I have clients, for example, who will come to me not because they need help with running their business and making more money. Sure, we talk about that. There are some areas that we get to that, but their main reason for coming to me might be, well, look, Dre, I'm making $500,000 a year and my income goes up every year. However, I've gained 50 pounds because I've been spending so much time at the office building this business that I'm not in shape anymore, or I'm not spending as much time with my kids as I used to, or I'm having trouble in my marriage because I'm putting all my resources into my business. So I may be helping them with some things outside of work just to make sure work doesn't overtake their entire lives. So how much does it matter when it comes to the fitness? It matters a lot, because your business can fail and you can start another one. If your body fails, you can't go buy another one. You can't go get another one at the doctor. If your body fails, the game is over. And maybe your brain still works and you're still alive, but you can't do anything. You can't walk by yourself, can't go to the bathroom by yourself. You're eating soup. Life ain't so friendly. Let's just say, if your body fails, you can't go buy another one. You can get another job. You can start another business. You can buy another car. You can buy new clothes. You cannot buy a new body. That's the only one you get. So when you hear that phrase, health is wealth, that is a real thing.
Yeah, man. I also heard the other saying where a healthy man wants all kinds of things in life, whereas a sick man only wants one thing. And that's where your
Right.
focus will lie. If you're not taking care of yourself, your focus is going to be, can I get myself out of bed? Can I put food in my belly today? You can't do anything else. So you're absolutely right. As an entrepreneur, you got good at doing something very, very well. And anytime you do something really well, you start to see some success at it, but then you start to see either efficiencies that you can improve upon or other avenues that you want to take to bring other values in for your clients and customers. What's something that you feel you're working on, either becoming more efficient or providing more value for your particular clients?
That's a great question. I'm looking at my top clients and I'm looking for ways to get more of them. And how can I give more value to those people, while at the same time, and this is the hard part, cutting off the bottom 80%. So the 80-20 rule is, how can I focus more on the top 20%, give them more value, and while at the same time freeing up my resources to give them that more value by getting rid of the bottom 80% that's taking up most of my resources right now. And that's the hard part for a lot of entrepreneurs, because it requires you letting go of something that you probably become really good at because you've been doing a whole lot of it and you've been doing it for a long time and you're used to it. And again, when I say drop the bottom 80%, we're not talking about things you're bad at. We're talking about things you're good at. That's why it's so challenging for many people to even apply the 80-20 principle, because you have to let go of some things that you've grown accustomed to. So the biggest thing for me is doing that. How do I give more value to the top 20% that I have? How do I find more people like them and subsequently drop the bottom 80% of what I'm doing in my business, because it's taking up way too much of my resources for very little, comparatively, very little return on investment.
That is what a mature business owner really talks about, because it's not easy to do. Like you said, you've been really good at it. How do I get rid of my bread and butter and focus on this other thing that's going to free up my time? Ooh, that's hard to do, especially when you build relationships with some of these people, because they've been there for quite some time. But at the end of the day, you're in this life for yourself. You got into this thing because you wanted financial freedom, time freedom. And the only way you're going to accomplish that is by becoming more efficient on that 80-20 rule, 100%.
Exactly.
You're the visionary, you're the leader. And as a leader, you have a vision for your company, just like you try to clarify the vision and the path for a lot of your entrepreneurial clients. Where do you see your company going in the next couple of years? What does this vision of Dre's look like?
Great question. So our biggest vision here is we want Work on Your Game to become, in the personal and professional development space, what Just Do It is in the athletic space. So when you hear Just Do It, everybody knows what that is. Everybody knows who it is, and it gives you a certain picture in your mind. So we want Work on Your Game to give people that picture, that image. We want that brand to be us when it comes to personal and professional development, the same way that Xerox means go make a copy of something, right? Even though as a company, it's not an actual thing. We want work on your game to be exactly that. And that just is a matter of getting the message out, talking to people like yourself. We have an audience of people who I would bet most of your audience never heard of me before we had this conversation, but that's our job to get my message out to more people who have never heard of me before.
And that's not the easiest thing, right? It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of getting behind the mic, although you are well polished, my friend. And I don't mean that on the top way, because I'm the same way up there too. But well polished speaker. Your brand's on point. It looks like your trajectory is going in the right direction. So I applaud you for that. People want to reach out. They want to find out more about Work on Your Game University, or they want to find out more about working with you directly. How can they do that?
Well, the best place would be that URL we got on the screen. So it's workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's the only place I do any coaching. That's where all our group programs, masterminds, coaching, all of that takes place right there. As far as social media, I'm on every single social media app. I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram is just my name, @Dre Baldwin. You got that up on the screen right there. So I use that every day, very actively, the Instagram stories function. But we're on every other app. And some apps I don't have the name @Dre Baldwin. If you just type in my regular name, Dre Baldwin, I'm easy to find on all the apps because I'm pretty active, and y'all know you all hear what I sound like and know what I look like. So I'll be easy to find.
Perfect, man. All right. My last question is a little bit of a selfish one. As a business coach and having experience in creating content for so many years, what was your experience like working with the Business Bros today, creating this long form piece of content designed to chop it up into short clips for social media?
Now, this is a great experience. It's just a matter of if people are going to come on a platform like this, just be ready to answer the questions. And hopefully people have thought deeply enough about their businesses, anybody who would come on this platform, to where they can answer the question, or maybe get challenged if they're open to it, get challenged with a question that maybe they haven't been asked before. And maybe that'll lead to an insight, might lead to a breakthrough. When someone asks a question, as I said, the right questions are more important than the right answers, especially in business. So that's what this experience was like. And I'm looking forward to this getting out to the socials so we can see the people who just want to see the 30-second version. Let's see what they got to say about it.
100%, man. Our attention span is so much smaller. All right, Dre, thank you very much for coming on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, workonyourgameuniversity.com, workonyourgameuniversity.com, scrolling across the bottom. Everybody in business needs a mentor. We all need coaches. Even the best athletes have coaches. And what does that tell you? It means that you can't always solve the problems if you're the one dealing with the issue. Sometimes you need that outside opinion to help you get to that next level that you're looking for. And the best people to do that are people who have already succeeded, just like Dre. So one more time, workonyourgameuniversity.com is the website. Dre, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.